Welcome everyone. I wanted to talk briefly about raising an army in your city. I've been seeing a lot of questions lately about raising the best army, the best ways to raise an army, and such. And there's really no straightforward answer for all scenarios on that. There's basic guidelines and buildings and such, but the best way to raise it is going to depend on a number of factors, from the size of your city or your progress in the tech tree, what chapter you're on, to your overall play style, to the specific goals you want out of fighting. So it could vary depending on all of that. Now, I wanted initially to wait to film this until I reached the goal I had personally set to start with. But quite frankly, I'm tired of typing out a book of information every time I see that question, so I'm gonna do one early while I'm still working towards my goal, my first goal at least. And maybe I'll reshoot this once I reach it. But given the variability in raising an army, I can't tell you exactly the best way for you to raise your army for your goals. What I am going to do is outline the method of which I am raising my army for my goals. Now, I am currently in the Orcs and Goblins chapter. Hopefully I'll be reaching that end soon. And my overall goal, or my overall starting goal, is to be able to reach 1600 tournament points, as well as gain specific rewards. Now, there are different ways to go about that, which some may not have considered. I didn't consider it really either until I saw Jack talking about it in the Facebook group, Elvenar Players group, Platinum Leaf, which kind of got me set on this goal for a number of months now. But when you do tournament, my initial goal, or my first goal, is to reach 1600 points each week. Why 1600? Because if you're fortunate enough to actually have a full fellowship and a fully active fellowship, which is unlikely, but this is a starting point, it will take you 40,000 points to reach 10 chests. So if you take the 40,000 points, that's 4,000. If you take 40,000 points divided by 25 players, each person would need 1600 points for your fellowship to reach a 10 chest. So that's going to be my base goal for points. Now, chances are you probably don't have a fully active fellowship, so you'll probably end up needing more than that, which is perfectly plausible for this plan. This is a base plan. You can always go well and beyond what I'm going to show you. But normally, you know, each time your provinces are up, you fight the next star. You can, I think it's a 5 or 6 star maximum if you're really on the ball with it. I never was, most people aren't, so I'm assuming an average of 4 stars for the fight. It would take 10 provinces at 4 stars and then an 11th at 2 star to reach that 1600 points. There is, however, another way which I thank Jack for showing me, would be to 2-star up to 25 provinces. It is a harder task, it's going to take more to do it, but I find the rewards much better. It still reaches your 1600 point goal, but your relic count and your KP count are going to be higher. In this version, your relic count is 115. In this way, it's 167. KP for this is 52. KP for this is 98. So you're looking at almost a 50%, or not 50%, 50 increase in relics and KP. And as I said, this can be expanded upon. If you reach to the point where all of this is doable, and you start doing more, you can see your rewards will keep just going up. Your KP and your relic count will increase much more than doing it the other way. The reason for that, on using crazywizard.info, will show you the rewards for each round in the tournament, each star. As you can see, 1 through 9 is pretty variable. It will change each round a little bit. However, province number 10 onwards is the same. They're all the same, as far as I've seen at least, which can be pretty far. On round 2, your second star, that fight will yield you 5 KP for each province. And that will add up the more you do. Which is why, each time you add that, you're getting that extra 5 KP, as well as the extra relics. And, your relic counts on here for both day 1 and day 2 are 4 apiece. So that's 8 extra relics for each province and 5 extra KP, as opposed to potentially smaller rewards. The overall finishing value is higher. So the points will help the Fellowship reach a 10 chest, as well as all the rewards you would gain from doing a 10 chest. The rewards I'm showing you are individual, just you, not the Fellowship rewards. That will be on top of what you gain. If you did a 10 chest, you'd gain an additional 20 relics and an additional 135 Ancient Wonder KP instances, as well as your upgrade spells and your blueprints. But we're looking at singles here. The points will help you get to your Fellowship, get to your 10 chest. The relics will obviously help you out, help your boosted goods out, help give you relics to work with in your Magic Academy's crafting window. Who knows, maybe one day they'll bring back the damn Fellowship adventure where you have to donate relics. I certainly hope not, but you never know. And the KP, of course, can help you level up your Ancient Wonders, help make your city stronger and more powerful, both in terms of military, goods, population, whatever ones you decide are most important to you. So this is my goal. 25 provinces, 2 stars. Now this goal you can start working on pretty much from the moment you start, because there's a lot of Ancient Wonders to boost up. However, in order to get 25 provinces, you're going to have to scout a good bit. And that amount you probably won't reach until Wood Elves or maybe Sorcerers and Dragons, depending on your playstyle. The reason for that is on your world map, you got all your scoutable provinces, and they run the circuit of all 9 relics. So, way to get an average estimate on how many provinces you need. I need 25 unlocked of a single relic. There will be 9 of them in order. So I need about 225 scouted provinces, roughly, to reach 25 for each relic. If you're not sure how many you have scouted, go to your tech tree and go to the next chapter. You will see right up here the amount you have scouted and the amount needed for that chapter. So, this plan relies on unlocking this, which I'll talk about briefly at the end of Orcs and Goblins. So you're pretty much going to be in Wood Elves by that point, which is 190 to unlock. Sorcerers and Dragons is 220. So as soon as you unlock Wood Elves, you're working towards that 220 goal. If you overscout 5 provinces, you reach your goal, which 5 is not too much and not that hard. It will not set you back too far either. Technically, you could reach it, back here if you're that over-scouted, but generally I try not to do that. But even though this strategy is based on being able to be first finished around the Wood Elves the start of the Wood Elves chapter, you can prepare, from day one. Now, the first thing to note, is your optional squad size upgrades. Something most people probably aren't aware about at the beginning of this game. If you have the option, decline to do these optional squad size upgrades. Now, there's a whole lengthy reason about that, which you can find in Platinum Leaf's master file about tournaments if you would like to check on more specifics about that, but that can be a whole discussion in and of itself. Suffice it to say, skipping these will make your tournaments easier. It will reduce your military losses, and it will reduce the catering goods required. So the squad size upgrades that leads nowhere, they're a dead end in the tech tree, you can skip over. And if I'm wrong, or if you decide one day to do it, or, changes their battle system, you can always come back and do them later. That's no big deal. There are squad size upgrades, though, that you must unlock to get to the next one, so obviously you have to do that. But skip your optionals. I myself wasn't aware of that until midway through, so I do have a few that were already acquired by the time I found that out. So I'm mid-range with that. But that is something very much worth noting. So with the preliminaries out of the way, let's move on to actually raising the military in our cities, or at least my city. Your military will focus on 2 main pillars, 2 main topics. You need a large enough army to do the job you want, and you need a strong enough army to do the job you want. You could have the largest army in the world, doesn't matter if you fail every fight. Same goes for the reverse. Doesn't matter if you can win every fight under the sun if you only have 2 units left. Though I guess technically, if you could win with 2 units, that statement might be valid, but you get my point. So let's start with raising the strength of your army. This has been made much more simplified if you were around last year to get the Fire Phoenix. This was one of the first few events where they introduced the evolving buildings, and the Fire Phoenix, when upgraded to its max level 10, when you feed it, you will get a bonus to the damage output by all of your units by 50%. And 50% is a nice damn chunk. That is fed. You feed them with pet foods, which you make in your Magic Academy's crafting window. Mine's almost done. These are random. You never know when they're going to show up. So when they show up, grab them. You never want to run short on this. And there are other there are other evolving buildings that will use pet foods as well. So if you have any of them in your city or want any of them in your city, these are worth getting. These will take, depending on the recipe, usually your spell fragments and your catalyst spells. Spell fragments usually one in the spire. You can win some catalyst spells in the spire, but they're usually just crafted through the main production. And it looks like they messed up the formatting on that a little bit, but they will cost relics to make, which is another reason for my 2-star plan to gain more relics, because you need them. Now these take Phoenix artifacts to evolve. Unfortunately, this year's Phoenix event, they introduced the Coldfire Phoenix, which is a completely different unit from the three Phoenixes introduced last year. So you can't interchange those upgrading artifacts. They do have crafting recipes to do that. None of mine are up to show you, but they're at a really bad exchange rate. But this year's event, if you finish all the quests, you still can gain 3 of the artifacts needed to get the Fire Phoenix. So if you want to do this, I strongly suggest it. Even if it takes a long time, the Fire Phoenix is a great addition to have. Probably the best military building you're going to get for fighting, for raising your strength. Even if it's partially leveled, you still gain some level of boost. So it is a great thing to have. There are ancient wonders that will raise your army's stats. I have not placed them because I've worked on others. And one of these is an example. I just forget which one. Needles. Yeah. Needles of the Tempest, which will be used for something else primarily, is one of the ancient wonders. That'll raise your light ranged units damage up to 127%, which is 27% increase. So there are ancient wonders like that for each of them, each year typed units, but it is a much longer method. You'd have to level up 5 or 6 different buildings, significant amounts of levels. I mean, my Needles is level 19, and it's that 27% boost, which is only about half of what my Fire Phoenix does for all of my units. But there are other ways if you don't have the Fire Phoenix. It's just going to take more effort and probably more losses in the meantime. But that building's a godsend for fighting. So that'll base your power in battle. Now you need to actually raise an army. And my culture went down. There are two main components to raising the army. One is the amount of units you can train at once, and the second is the speed at which you train them, both of which are very important. I focused first on training speed. Now, when you're in your military, or when you're in your barracks, it takes a certain amount of time to train your units, and that's that. Unless you're using time instances, it just takes that long to do it. But if you're not training enough units and you need more, but you run out of days and times, that's an issue. So you need to train faster. Best way to do that is with your Needles of the Tempest Ancient Wonder that I just talked about. That will increase your training speed as you level it up. I'm level 19 now, which gives me a plus 67.5% speed. So that is pretty significant, and that will increase as you level up. So that will allow you to train units faster. So you get more when you're done. The only problem that results from that is when you're not on the game. Say you log off for the night, or you go to sleep and all that. The amount of time that you're off after 5 hours, I guess it's a little more for that, but say after 5 or 6 hours of my units being trained, it has nothing left to train. It stops. It's doing nothing until I log back on and set more units to be trained. So if I'm off 8, 12 hours, that's a lot of time your barracks is sitting there doing nothing. So you need to increase the amount of units that it can train at once. The more units you train at once, the longer that time's going to be to complete it, obviously. But they still get the speed bonus. Combined with this, you're just training more units faster, as opposed to a smaller amount of units faster. That way, while you're asleep or while you're logged off, you're constantly producing troops. So you want to get, at least I want to get that number up to the point of where that time to train all of these at maximum will be the same amount of time as the time I'm going to be logged off at night. That way, I set these when I log off. When I log back on, it's just finishing up. I set more. I got units training 24/7. So how to raise the amount of units you can train, which is your training size. First up is the common barracks. First up is the common armory. That's the first building you'll really have access to, and that will raise your training size. The amount will depend on its level. In Orcs chapter, you will need at least level 20 armories to be able to produce these orcs, which are needed for various productions and negotiating costs and whatnot. You make these the same way as you make your normal tier goods or supplies. It has a window, you select one, and it starts producing. So you will need some of these for chapter progression, irregardless of whether you're a fighter or not. So take advantage of it. As for how many you need, depends really on how fast you're trying to get through chapters. I'm taking it slow. I've been able to manage with just 2. 1 and 2. Now, until recently, I had 4, but the other 2 were level 19, which cannot train those. But I kept them that way because it was a different size and shape, and it fit in here perfectly. So I kept them just for the training size increase. But when I changed my city, I didn't have the room. Armories will take population and culture, so it will be a limiting factor on that. And as you can see, it can take up a good bit of space. So you probably ain't going to be able to make like 50 of them. It's probably going to be out of your reach. So we will need more. This raise, now my current armory raises my training size 130, which is nice, but probably the lowest amount of them all, but necessary, as you just heard and as you will see shortly. Another ancient wonder is your dwarven bulwark, which, as you just saw, does produce light melee troops every 3 hours. So it's a nice little bonus. But it will increase your training size based on your current squad size. So mine is only level 9, and it raises, what is it? It's at 56.25%, 56.25%, which means it increases my training size 439, which again is nice, more than the armories, but both of them together still aren't quite enough to reach my goal. And an Ancient Wonder is probably going to take longer to level up than building an armory, but it's something that was still needed for my plan. Now what I need to make my plan work is one more Ancient Wonder, which I do not have unlocked yet. That is the one that comes at the very end of Orcs and Goblins. When this final tech is unlocked, you gain the Hero's Forge and the Shrine of the Shroody Shrooms. And I'm really looking forward to the Shrine of the Shroody Shrooms. That is the shrine. It produces light-ranged units every 3 hours, the same way my bulwark produced light melee units. But this has another little interesting factor. It increases that training size, but not quite as directly as the other ones. This one will take the combined levels of all your armories and multiply them by a set amount, which is based on the Ancient Wonder's level, and increase your training size by that total. So as an example, even at level 1, that set value is 6. So you saw I had 2 level 20 armories currently, so I have 40 combined levels. Multiplied by the base value of 6 means it will increase my training size by 240, which is nice. But that is at its weakest. As you level the Ancient Wonder up, you can see that base value gets more and more. So if you're down to level 5, and you take your 40 combined levels times the base value of 10, now you're up to 400 increase. And that base value keeps going up to a total of 40. If I had a level 30 maxed out wonder right now, it would be, 1600 increase. Obviously, you're probably not getting the max right away, but it is something that's quite worth improving. Now, let's say I mentioned I had 2 level 19 armories. I used the recent teleport spell to put them back in my inventory. But if I still had them out, I'd have my 2 20s and my two 19s, which does not equal 118. 40 plus 19 plus 19. I'd have 78 combined levels. If I got the Ancient Wonder to level 5, which is perfectly reasonable in my situation, I'd have a training size increase of 780, which is more than all the rest of my stuff combined. But, as I said, it is based on those armories, so you still need them. And that is part of my goal that I am working towards. You can work out the time to your current training time per unit and work out how long it takes to train whatever amount it is you would need to cover the amount of time that you're logged off. That would take quite a while to explain. I did that a good month or two back, so I'd have to refigure that out again, and that would probably take a while. But this was what I came up with for needing that for my goal in my city, in my design. Would require a level 8 Shrine of the Shroody Shrooms, which gives me a base value of 14. So, because I only have the 220 armories out, so I'd need a boost of 560 for my current goal. The rest of these I have already finished, so at least to the level of this goal. So once I have that done, I will be able to train units more and faster, and I'll have the Phoenix to make them more powerful. And that should give me what I need to be able to achieve a 1600 point tourney and retrain all the units I lost before the start of the next tournament. And that part's key. If you can't retrain your army, you can only do this every so often. If you can retrain your army, because you can make enough and fast enough that I can do this every single tournament. And that is the base goal. Now, once you reach that goal, once I reach that goal, you can always make improvements. There's always room to improve. As I showed you on the tournament calculator, you can keep fighting however many you have explored and keep gaining more of these relic and KP rewards. I believe Jack has a video on YouTube somewhere about that. I forget precisely. I think he had like 300 KP reward or 500 KP reward, something like that, in a single tournament run. It was pretty cool to watch. But this right here is the base for what I need to achieve that goal. As I mentioned, there are other Ancient Wonder buildings that will strengthen your military. This one, the bulwark, increases... Not the bulwark, the needles. The needles increases your light ranged units. The shrine... No, that just produces. But there are other Ancient Wonders that will do this part here for each of the 5 types of units you have. So if all these are capped out, you can place them, strengthen your units even more. They are stackable. These bonuses are stackable with your Fire Phoenix. There are also buildings in your Magic Academy crafting window that will show up from time to time that will boost unit strength. I have a few of them somewhere. Such as this one, Enhanced Light Range. It gives your light ranged units a single type a bonus of 50%, so it raises your light ranged unit strength up to 150%. It does expire after 5 days, so they're good for one tournament. And usually a tournament will have one type of unit above all that you will be using more than the rest. So these can come in handy for that. There is also one, first try, Unleashed Unit Upgrade. Same thing, an expirable building after 5 days that will raise your unit's health 25% to a total of 125%. And here's one for your mages. Magnificent Mage Multiplier. Same thing, expires 5 days, raises your mage's strength 50% to a total of 150%. When you place them, that can help out, though it's expiring. But you'll be making enough relics and stuff to keep making those whenever you find them. And the bonus from those expiring buildings stack with the bonuses from your Ancient Wonder, and stack with the bonuses from a Fire Phoenix. So you can keep growing stronger and stronger and stronger much long after you reach this point. So this is a base goal, the first goal that I'm trying to get to. You can get much stronger and much more tournament after this. A couple of things to note, however. Buildings like your armories I mentioned will take a good bit of population, and the rest of your city will take populations depending on how you design things, which means you're probably going to need the Ancient Wonders, Golden Abyss, and Mountain Halls. Both of these raise your population. Currently, level 6 Mountain Halls gives me an extra 1,200 units at 4.5% power, which is good. Your Golden Abyss, that one I've had longer, is level 21, which is an 11.25% power, which raises my population almost 3,100. And you can see in my goal city, if you look at the report, even with a level 21 Golden Abyss and a level 6 Mountain Halls, and all my residences and then 2 extras that I had to fit somewhere, I still would only have 191 population after all of this was made. And my manufactories are quite underleveled because they take a lot of population as you level them up. So I've decided to devote my population to workshops and military, so my goods factories have been a lower level. Now I know they need to be leveled up in later chapters for new types of goods, sentient goods and other stuff, I believe. But that's an issue I'll deal with when I get to it. Another thing to remember is we're talking about training units, more units, faster units. You will need the supplies to be able to train these units. Right now, for me, 1 square worth of units, 1 block, takes 10,179 supplies. As that training size increases, single block's going to take more and more supplies. And the faster you're training them, the more often you will need to use those supplies. So you need to be able to maintain the supply level to keep up with training your army. Now for me, I have 10 workshops. Not specifically for that goal, but because that's what I started with and that was the number I liked. It works well for quests and fellowship adventures and keeping up with breads all day and baskets of groceries overnight. I'm about even to maintaining my training army at the moment and some goods. As my training size gets bigger, when I get that Shrine of the Shruti Shrooms, there may be some discrepancies. But don't forget your culture bonus, of course. Mine's pretty flat right now at 100 because I'm doing a little wishing well excursion, so they're taking the place of my normal culture buildings. But the bonus you get from them will help increase your supplies, as well as the power of provision enchantment, which will increase your supply production a good bit as well. And if you're truly desperate, you got the little 5% Enscrolled endowment enchantment to boost your culture some as well. If it's a culture building someone is polished. But yeah, you can have the fastest training, biggest training army in the world. If you have no supplies to do it, you're screwed. Of course, there are also supply instants ranging from 5% to 100%. If you ever find yourself suddenly short. But yeah, that's about it that I can think of at the moment. So overall, looking at raising the strength of your army, the speed of which you can train, and the amount of which you can train. Purpose being to be able to do a 1600 point tourney and then retrain all of my lost units before the next tournament starts. Once I can do that, I'll be able to maintain that 16.100 every single week, and from there get stronger, make more points, help out myself and the fellowship more. So overall, it's a win-win, but it does take a lot of work. Well, some work. It takes a lot of time because you're leveling up a lot of ancient wonders. That's more time than work. But yeah, so this is my base plan. It's my first goal. Hopefully that'll give you at least some insight on how to raise an army that is suitable to your goals. And hopefully you can adapt that to suit those goals. Guessing everyone's goal ain't going to be the same as mine, so good luck tweaking things around to meet your goal. Have some fun with it. City Planner from Elven Architect is a good option. It'll let you create cities either from your current city layout plan, which you can access through elvenstats.com. Update your city there, and then it'll have a link that will bring up your current city in this format. Or you can just start from scratch, and you got your reports here. Check out your pop culture, all that stuff. Check out exactly how you want to raise things instead of doing trial and error within your city. So, build your military, go win some tourneys.